at the Mishnah, page 86b, Bat Yisrael sheniset lekohen. Up to this point, we learn that me'oreset lo ochelet. If she is only betrothed, she's not eating. But if you have a Israelite woman married to a kohen, so tochal bitruma, her status change, and she can eat bitruma. So the Torah said it clearly in Leviticus 22, verse 11. Vechohen ki yikne nefesh kinyan kaspo yochal bo, and his wife is part of that. Met vela hemenu ben. This is part of the discussion if women have three husbands. There is a concept in halacha that's called isha katlanit. Here is a situation that the husband passed away, who is a Kohen, and she have a son from him. Vela emenu ben, tochal bitruma. Why? It's because of the son, the joint son together. So since she have a zera, so they said ben, it's also ma'achil, the son is also can feed her. And you learn it from the continuing of the pasuk. They said vilid bito em yachlu belachmo. So it means that even a zera, even a continuation, which is the son that they have joined together, that son can hold the right for his mother to eat from truma, the same as the husband was alive. So as long as the son is alive, she can eat from that truma, and this is also the Rambam said in L'chot Trumot chapter 6. Niset leLevi tochal b'maaser. So if she married the Levite, she can eat from the tithe but not from the truma, because she is married to someone who's zar lekuna, who's foreign to kuna, because Leviim are prohibited from truma. So since she's married to Levi, she is prohibited from truma. Now the second husband met, if the second husband passed away, vela emenu ben, and they have a son together, tochal b'maaser, she can eat from the tithe but not the truma, because the son, the Levi, allow her to eat the maaser but prohibited her truma. Niset li Israel. So it means if she marry now a regular Israel, so it's a big question. The Gemara asks if she's considered katlanit or not. But anyway, because one of the issues is that is a man that said if she married 3 times and the husband passed away, it's like the story of Yehuda and Tamar. Yehuda and his daughter Tamar, לא תאכל בתרומה ולא מעשר. So it's a wife of a zar. So according to Rabbi Meir, even maaser, if she have the descendants from Kohen or Levi, met if the husband, the Israel, the third husband passed, vela emenu ben. So now she have a sons for this husband. לא תאכל לו בתרומה ולא מעשר, because it's no longer, because this son, it's not from Levi or Kehuna. So therefore, she go back to the status before, or maaser or truma. Now, if the son, God forbid, but that's the reality of life, if the son passed, met bna Israel tochal b'maaser, because she have a son of Levi, but she cannot eat truma. Met bna Levi tochal b'truma, because she have a son from the Kohen. Met bna Kohen lo tochal b'truma b'maaser, because she is now in a lineage, she is total foreign. Page 87. Now the Mishnah changed. 87. So the Mishnah is dealing now with the daughter of Kohen that she married and then she became a widow several times, each time from different one, from Israel, Levi, and Kohen. And each time she have a different child. So they have a isur v'heter when it's come to truma. Bat Kohen she said Israel tochal b'truma, because mafsida truma de beinashe, because she is with a zar. That's what the Torah said, Leviticus 22, verse 13. Met, if the husband Israel passed, vela emenu ben, and she have son, or tochal b'truma, because she have a zera that make her invalid from truma. He said to Levi tochal b'maaser. Why? Because she is a wife of someone who is allowed maaser but prohibited from truma. Met, if the Levi passed, vela emenu ben, if she have sons from him, tochal b'maaser, she can eat from tithe, from not with truma, because this zera, this descendants, is she have from a Levi. He said the Kohen tochal b'truma, because she's a wife of a Kohen. Met, if the Kohen passed, vela emenu ben, tochal b'truma. Now the Mishnah continue with the halachot of that wife, and they explain what it changed if the sons passed. Medna mi Kohen lo tuchal betruma, because she go back to the Levi. Medna bi Levi lo tuchal maaser, that's from Israel. Medna mi Israel chozer lebeit avia. So she go over the Hezer Truma that she had before she got married. She's the daughter of Kohen. That's they said in the book of Leviticus chapter 22 verse 13. Veshava el beit avia kin urea, and she is returned unto her father's house as in her youth. Milechem avia tochel, she may eat of her father's bread. So the Gemara said, Med la milevi tochel bitruma. If her son from the Levi died, she may partake from Truma. So the Gemara challenged that. They said, the hadrach la mishum bna. She can eat because she have son from the Kohen, which means a woman that she allowed Truma because she have a descendants from the Kohen, and then she prohibited that. So how do you know that she is allowed now to eat from the Truma? Amar Abba Marav. The reason for that it's bat uvat, because it's written bat without vav and then with the vav. So why you use that vav? And we said many times that every single letter, it's not superfluous, it's a reason for that. So kemank Rabbi Akiva the Darish vavi. So you go by Rabbi Akiva that hold that every time they use the vav, the Gemara in Sanhedrin 51b, that uvat, he disputed Rabbi Ishmael, and he said that it's a meaning. The meaning, so you use the only Rabbi Akiva, afilu teimar Rabbanan, kula uvat kraya teirau. If you go by the Rabbanan, by the sages, so who do not usually derive halachot from additional vav, as in this case, the entire phrase, but if a Kohen's daughter, is superfluous. So it's so you see that everyone agrees that in this context, the additional letter in the text come to include an additional case. Tanu Rabbanan, the sages taught. So, daughter of Kohen, כשהיא חוזרת, when she returns to her father's house after having had married to a non-Kohen and separated from her husband, either because of divorce or widow, חוזרת לתרומה ואינו חוזרת לחזה ושור. So he explained several times that there's a difference between truma and eating the breast or the right hind leg of a peace offering. So that part, she's not. So that the Torah commanded us to give to Kohanim those parts in Leviticus 10. And the Gemara in Zvachim, page 55, explain that the Kohanim can eat it with their families, which is the wives, the sons, the servants, but prohibited to zarim, to a foreign. אמר רב חיסדא אמר רב הינא בר שילא מה יקרא? היא בתרומת הקודשים לא תאכל, במורא מקודשים לא תאכל. So something מורא מקודשים she cannot eat, which is offering giving to a Kohen. Another source, רב נחמן אמר רבה בר אבוה מלחם ולא כל לחם פלל לחזה ושור. נחמן said רב בר אבוה that the halacha is from the different source, because they said she may eat in her father's bread, so she may not eat all bread. So we exclude the breast and the right hind leg. מתקיף לה רמי בר חרמה, אימה פרט להפרת נדרים. So he asked, Rami בר חרמה is always hard questions. He said that we may use that phrase to exclude nullification of vows. The Torah consequently, by teaching us that even after she returned to her father's house in the youth, she does not return to her youth in all ways, as her father may not nullify the vows. So therefore, we said, Amarava kvar paska tana de Rabbi Ishmael. That's what we study from the yeshiva of Rabbi Ishmael. Tana divrei Rabbi Ishmael, ונדר אלמנה וגרושה יקום עליה. מה תלמוד לומר? What is come to teach us? ולא מוצא מכלל אב, מוצא מכלל בעל, not part of the husband, not part of the father. אלא, הרי שמסריו לשלוחי הבעל, if the father gave this engaged daughter to the emissary of the husband, in order for her to get married, או שמסרו שלוחיו לשלוחי הבעל ונתרמלה או נתגרשה בדרך, which means before the husband did the כינוס, איך אני קורא בבית אביה של זו או של בעלה של זו? Because since she does not have the chuppah, So you tell me that the father can do annulment of her vow, or she's already belonged to her husband. אלא לומר לך, כיוון שיצא שעה אחת ברשות האב, שוב אינו יכול להפר. The moment she's out of the father's control, she gave it to the emissary of the husband, it's over. So even she, God forbid, the divorce or become widow before she entered the chuppah, it's already changed her status. So the moment he gave her, that's over. I'll give you just a small example to explain it. I went to the embassy, right? You go to embassy. So they tell you, you see the ruling. They said the embassy itself is belong to the country. Even though it's in a different state's property, but it belongs to a country. So as long as you're the embassy building, so you have control over that country. The moment you leave the embassy, you go to a different country, even can be in the same domain. That's the rule. So for our understanding, if she left her father's domain by going with those emissary of the husband, so even for a short time, she's no longer under the father's domain. So if she meanwhile divorced or became widow from the husband, she's no longer in the status of coming back to her father the same as she used to before. רב ספרא אמר, מלחם אבי תאכל, לחם ולא בשר. Specific תרומה אינת חזה ושוק. רב פאבא אמר, מלחם אבי תאכל, לחם הקנוי לאביה, which is תרומה. It's part לחזה ושוק, זה משולחן גבוה כזכור. That's what we said earlier. משולחן גבוה כזכור, that it's like they're receiving from Hashem. So it's not part of their quote-unquote monetary possessions. It's only for the Kohanim. They can eat it. It's, in a sense, belongs to Hashem. He gave it to them. So it's not like leftover. It's a gift from Hashem to the Kohanim. So in that sense, it's like a servant receiving something from his master. ורבא אמר, והתחזה השנופה ואת שוק התרומה דאכלו אתה ובנותיך איתך בזמן שאיתך. So he said all these sentences that said, and you and the bread of waving and the hind leg of weaving you shall eat, you and your sons and your daughters with you. So the Leviticus 10. So it's indicated the daughter of Kohen may eat at the time when they are with you, but once they left the Kohen domain, which means they married the ordinary Israelite, they may no longer partake of these gifts, even if they subsequently return to the household. Amar Rabbi Dr. So back to the issue of Chazeh v'Shok. Amar Rabbi Dr. We learn, כשהיא חוזרת לבית אביה חוזרת לתרומה ואינה חוזרת לחזר ושוק. So, but בשביל בנה חוזרת אף לחזר ושוק. When it's come to a account of her son, or the Kohen, if she later married a regular Israel and he died, she returned to partake even the breast and the right hind leg. He said, Azal Rav Mordechai, Amra l'shma'ata kamed Rav Ashi, Me'icha kamitrabia, min uvat. So they said, Mi adif ala mina. So it's the daughter of Israel is better than the daughter of Kohenet returned to the father. So Rav Ashi said, Hatam ktivei mi'utei, hachar lo ktivei mi'utei. Over there, the Torah writes an exclusion, as we learn above, which teaches us that she does not return in all regards. But when it's come to this, it's a different story, because it said that it does not write exclusions. So consequently, although the halakha is of a woman who has son from a Kohen is itself derived from the case of a daughter of a Kohen returning to her father's house, she has more abilities than the later. בת כהן שנישאת לישראל, תנו רבנן, ושב על בית אביה פרט לשומרת יבם, כי נוריה פרט למעוברת. That's, we learned earlier, the Braita. So the Gemara said, ועל הודינו. So that's, we learned from קל וחומר, what? מה המקום שלא עשה ולד מהראשון, כולד מן השני, לפוטרה מן הייבום. So if this woman married to one, and she buried a child with him, and the husband passed, and she married the second one, and he passed without children, she needs a ייבום because of the second husband, So the child that she had from the first one, that exempt her, עשה עובר כילוד, מקום שעשה ולד מן הראשון כולד מן השני, לפוסלה מן התרומה, אינו דין שנעשה עובר כילוד. So how much so that the fetus is like the child who is born as a pregnant woman does not perform levirate marriage. So the Gemara said, לא, you can't learn in קל וחומר. מה לי עשה עובר כילוד לעניין ייבום? שהרי עשה מתים כחיים. Because it's like make the levirate marriages to are made the dead like a living. So if the woman had a child at the time of her husband's death, she's entirely exempt from levirate marriage, even if her son subsequently died. So the decree, the deceased child is like a living one in a sense that he continued to exempt his mother from the requirement of levirate marriage. So you think about it, it's fascinating. The same applies to Pidyon Aben, you know, the 30 days. You bring the baby, and it's during the period of 30 days. So it's basically, if it's anything happen, it's no longer first son. But here you see that the moment that she have a child, even the child passed, she's no longer involved with ייבום. So they said, נעשה עובר כילוד. לא, מה לי עשה עובר כילוד לעניין ייבום? שעשה מתים כחיים. עשה עובר כילוד לעניין תרומה שלא עשה מתים כחיים. Because shall we make the fetus like a child who was born with regard to truma, where the Torah did not make the dead like a living? Because when we talk about truma, as long as the daughter of a Kohen has a living son from the Israelite husband, she's disqualified from truma. But if he died, she may partake truma again, as we do not consider him like a living son. So what you see is all of that. We cannot learn halacha of truma from levirate marriage with regard to the status of fetus. And as a result, Talmud lomar kin urea prat lim'uberet. So that's when you use the word kin urea, which is as in her youth, to exclude a pregnant woman. ויצטרך למכתב מעוברת ויצטרך למכתב וזרע אין לה. Why you need to have both? די כתב רחמנה זרע אין לה מעיקר אחת גופה ועד התרי גופה. Because now after the bearer of the child is two. אבל מעוברת מעיקר אחת גופה ואחת גופה. אימא תיכול, maybe she go back to eat תרומה. צריכה. So then you need כינוריה. וי כתב רחמנה מעוברת. If you tell me that Torah is about a woman, I might have said that this is true only if a pregnant woman. Why? The mikar gufa, because on the outside of her body, 87b, srika vehashta gufa malya, was empty, and now her body is full with the child. So therefore she is no longer as in her youth, but aval zera en la. The mikar gufa srika vehashta gufa srika ema lo tzricha. So the woman that have a baby from someone who's foreign, she cannot go back to Eto Truma. So you see all these Kal Vachomer, you have the Siman. אמר לי לא נעשה מעשייה במיתה, נעשה ולא נעשה בוולד יבם, תרומה יבוע ותרומה. Siman, that is to remember is written short. First one, אמר לי רבי דוד, מיד הזכרת לרב ולא נעשה מתים כחיים לייבום. So the whole idea is, should we make the halacha that the dead children like halacha of the living children with regard to levirate married by קל וחומר. מקל וחומר, מקום שעשה ולד בראשון כולד מן השני לפוסלה מן התרומה, לא עשה מתים כחיים. מקום שלא עשה ולד מן הראשון כולד מן השני לפוטרה מן הייבום, אינו דין שלא נעשה מתים כחיים. So when the baby passed, so she have the זיקת ייבום. תלמוד לומר, דרכי דרכי נועם וכל דברי שלום, זה said in משלי, chapter 3, that the whole path of Torah is a path of pleasantness and peace. So if she is under the second husband and the one from the first past, and she have this zikat ייבום, that's not darchei noam. The Rashi explained that when the baby passed, so she have the zikat ייבום, she do וחליצה, and basically she degraded by her husband. And Meiri said that it may cause them to have a fight. But the Noid of Yehuda, Ibn Ezer Tanyana, in Kuf Nun, elaborates, and he said that this zikah basically annul all the relationship from the second husband. Anyway, v'na'aseh metim kechayim, the second one is v'na'aseh metim kechayim. Let us make the halacha with regard to dead children, like the halacha with regard to living one, with regard to truma, מקל וחומר. מה המקום שלא עשה ולד מן הראשון כוולד מן השני, לפוטרה מן הבור מסע, מתים כחיים. מקום שעשה ולד מן הראשון כוולד מן השני, לפוסלה מן התרומה הנודין שנעשה מתים כחיים, ולמולמר וזה אין לה ואין לה. Because they passed away. I wish to have more time. The third one, ונעשה ולד הראשון כוולד מן השני לעניין ייבום, מקל וחומר. מה המקום שלא עשה מתים כחיים לעניין תרומה, עשה ולד מן הראשון כוולד מן השני, מקום שעשה מתים כחיים ייבום, הנודין שנעשה ולד מן הראשון כוולד מן השני, תלמוד לומר הוא בן אין לו ואין לו. Because this second husband doesn't have a descendants. Fourth one, ולא נעשה ולד מן הראשון כוולד מן השני לתרומה. So it means that we should make a child from the first husband, not like a child from the second one, with regard to truma. The same idea, מקל וחומר, the same קל וחומר. ומה המקום שעשה מתים כחיים לפוטרה מן הייבום? If you tell me that, if a place that the Torah made the living like the dead, to exempt her from levirate marriage, it is still לא עשה ולד הראשון כולד מן השני, not make a child from the first husband like the child from the second. מקום שלא עשה מתים כחיים לתרומה, אין דין שלא נעשה ולד מן הראשון כולד מן השני. So then a place when the Torah did not make a living like a dead with regard to truma, it is not right that we should not make a child from the first husband like a child from the second one. So you have to say that as long as the daughter of Kohen doesn't have a descendants seed from the second husband who is a foreign, she should go back to eat the truma, even she have a descendants from the first husband who is a foreign. Talmud lomar, so they come to teach us that when regard to the daughter of Kohen that marry out, they use the term ein la. So they said, and the verse said, and she have no child. V'ha yesh la, but in fact the woman has children, because this is from the first husband, that it was foreign. So it means that she have it, so can't do much. הדרן הלך, יש מותרות.
לשולוים מלאכי השולוים מלאכי